Hey, it's Soleil, and this is episode 420 of the Orange Pill Investor. Just a coincidence. Um, yeah, vol is still kind of cataclysmically low. We're even going to have earnings soon. So, in that sense, you would think that IV would start rolling up, but I wonder if there's just not that much excitement in the TradFi environment about strategies earnings because we already know what it is. We know it's the Bitcoin price times the number of Bitcoin. So is it even possible to have an earnings surprise for strategy? Because anybody can just do the math. So I wonder if as far as Bitcoin treasury companies are concerned, I wonder if the days of earnings surprise are kind of over. Maybe if people are just stacking sats, it still applies. But if you have 90% of your company's valuation in Bitcoin, and everybody knows what the Bitcoin is worth, and your profits from the company are like a rounding error compared to your Bitcoin, then the earnings is just about, you know, talking about where the company's going, because everybody knows where the company's been for the last 3 months. It's not like anybody is eagerly awaiting their next earning call like, I wonder what Bitcoin is worth. I wonder how much they made this quarter. Like, I mean, Jeff's got the spreadsheet, right? And he was going over it on Wednesday, like how much, how much their last 4 quarters of negative earnings will be wiped out based on 105K price, 100K price. I think it was down to even like 94, 95K. Bitcoin could drop down to, and it still erases the last 4 quarters of negative earnings, which would mean S&P 500 qualifying. We can't say S&P 500 inclusion because there's the unfortunate hurdle of the committee. So even if they got inclusion immediately, or I mean, they're not, you don't get just inclusion immediately as soon as they announce earnings. But if they qualified immediately and they were taken in as soon as possible, I still think it wouldn't be until September. So there could be something that happens, or maybe everybody already knows it's going to happen, and like strategies price might just dud, like just nothing may happen. The other thing that I'm a little bit interested and somewhat nervous about with regard to implied vol is that I'm really excited that they're able to ramp up the leverage, which I think will pump up the implied vol. If we get a quick spike in Bitcoin, of course, that would probably jumpstart everything as well. But in the past, we had convertible bonds, and you're kind of just dumping a ton of leverage all at once. But with these preferreds, they're just kind of grinding away at it. It's kind of like a slow grind of increasing their leverage ratio. And they're under leveraged right now, which is why I think people are not willing to pay up high prices for calls right now, which makes this, not the best environment for myself being an option seller. This would probably give the advantage to the buyers at this point, because when IV spikes, let me see if this is, I think, yeah, I don't know if this is going to load because the VPN's on. Yeah, it ain't going to work. Once IV spikes, we should be able to see, well, it's the other way around actually. When option prices spikes, we'll see that reflected in the IV. But that doesn't really change my strategy because my strategy is to sell vol under 45 days and buy it 90 days, 120, 180, 365 days out. I'm selling it where the Black-Scholes model is actually still fairly accurate. Like it does a reasonable job of, like I can go out here to 42 days to expiration, and Tasty Trade's got the one standard deviation line for us. That can be a nice guidepost. They've got the expected move where they're kind of predicting that strategy's price on July 25th could be anywhere from 320 to 430. Short term, this is where all of these numbers, kind of accurate. But Dan was talking on Charles O'Day's podcast and discussing how the Black-Scholes model just starts to get more and more inaccurate as time passes. So, they're plugging the Black-Scholes values in here and they're trying to make a market for what the strategy price is going to be. And if the strategy price is anywhere even remotely close to where we think it is, then whoever's making the market on any of these long calls a year out are not even close. So that's what I prefer. I like to sell the vol in the short term when, I could get wrecked, but my hope is that I will have stacked enough long positions before that happens to compensate for it. Because I don't know when it's going to happen, and I don't really, I don't do TA and watch metrics and try to read the tea leaves about what's coming next. But yeah, it's kind of funny that people are just bored right now. Like if we do year to date, we're up 25%, but that's boring. In a year, up 140%, but that's kind of boring. And look, like Metaplanet is like Strategy's little brother. So we're all on the same team. We're all rooting for both companies. Both companies are stacking sats. Both companies are basically pumping each other's bags by buying Bitcoin. And clearly, Saylor has like a soft spot in his heart for Metaplanet and Dylan. And, he's probably got like he's probably in his faves. You know what I'm saying? He can probably call it fucking 2 a.m. and he might pick up. That's just me riffing. I don't have any idea how close they are, but I can imagine that that if I had Saylor's number, I'd probably go to voicemail. But Dylan probably gets through. That being said, so I think Metaplanet's going to run their playbook perfectly. They're probably already hammering out preferreds, and it's going to be hilarious. If they roll out Strike like MTPLK, MTPL. Well, they already have F. They're already MTPLF, right? So whatever. And then MTPLD. I'm sure they'll get their own acronyms or whatever, but and maybe there's some cool Japanese words that they can figure out, like strife, strike, and stride. Maybe there's some good Japanese versions. Um, but yeah, so if the leverage just kind of grinds up though with these preferreds, it's just, and instead of like a giant $1 billion convertible bond deal, if it's kind of like, all right, 100 million this week, couple hundred million next week, it's almost like it's taking a whole month for the convertible bond, or what would happen in a convertible bond to go through. Now that will change as the liquidity and the preferred market matures and gets kind of like goes into full production mode. So maybe they'll be able to spin that up even faster. And actually, that's probably an important distinction, because if Bitcoin runs and then Strategy starts to run, if Strife, Strike, and Stride start to run, it's going to be like everything is picking up speed. They're going to be able to hammer the ATMs on their preferreds. They're going to be able to lever up. That, if that pumps the IV in and of itself, then that's going to be ripe for a convertible bond deal. And so at that point, we may just start piling leverage on top of leverage into the next mania. So it's probably going to be a slow grind, and it's just like everybody's getting bored, and there's chop, and then low IV, and it's like people are getting bored and trying to find other things to invest in, and Strategy might be suffering a little bit from that kind of hangover too. Like, hey, let's full port into Metaplanet. Let's full port into whatever. Um, that being said, I am kind of excited. I like Metaplanet needs to get an options market, because I will definitely take a position when that happens, and I need to be able to trade it. What the hell? All right. I need to be able to trade it in my existing accounts. Amber alert. I got freaking 3 different phones yelling at me. Yeah, so we might just continue to just simmer and grind, and then bam, once IV reaches a certain kind of like threshold, it'll almost be like catching fire, and now it's self-sustaining, or a nuclear reactor that you can't once the nuclear reaction starts, there's no stopping it, and you get a nice bang. So that'll be kind of fun to watch. If Bitcoin's price plus the preferreds ramping up creates the environment that they need for like the perfect bond deal, and then maybe those just start coming in on top, leverage on top of leverage, which would create vol on top of vol, hopefully. Then maybe we'll see another face melting rally. It is kind of annoying though that this pump, I think it pumped over to over 500, but that was like after hours. And then by the time it opened the next day, it was back down under, like 400 again. So that was kind of a pain in the ass. Like, it needs to do that wild shit before the bell. All right, it's after 2:30. I don't think I really have much expiring today anyway. And what I do have expiring, I'm just gonna let assign. But let's check the chats and then get into it. What's up, Kanal? Let's see. Personally, think the only thing that will really move this stock outside of Bitcoin is S&P 500 inclusion, since that timing isn't priced in. Remember, Tesla took 3x or 3 times. Robinhood was rejected, and thus it's still a black box for MSTR. Yeah, it's going to be crazy though, because if they try to keep kicking the can down the road, strategies are just going to enter at a higher and higher rank. And by then their market cap will be so big that the inflows will be kind of crazy. Keith Gordon, the bigger question is, do Bitcoin mark-to-market earnings matter to the market at all? Seems like we should already be seeing some front running of those earnings if it does. Yeah, maybe they just don't understand it. Maybe they're not paying attention to the new KPIs. What's up, Deeply? Bitcoin is the hurdle rate. Cannot disagree. Let's see. Remember coins moves and some of the options pricing the day it was announced. I don't remember that. I bet you we could find it. I guess it was here. It must have been this, huh? 180 to 300. $20,000% gains in options. Good Lord. All right, cool. So I'm gonna probably just do a speed run through these because since I rolled these out to 45 days, I really, like Roll Fridays barely even Roll Friday anymore. Still chipping away at the margin that I used. Took out a little bit of cash to invest in Swan. So that's kind of cool. Never done that before. I've got 8 days left on these Septembers. I will just cut bait on these, take my $2,000, and then roll them out to December and set all my hopes on the Decembers. I think I actually did take half of my profits here at a double. So the Septembers were not a complete disaster like June and July were. I do need a 10x on these 890s just to not even be back to even Stevens. Tesla doing well. Yeah, nothing for me to do here. I was tempted to take a similar position though, because I think somebody was saying they're trading at 1x MNAV or maybe even below it. I can't run the wheel with them because they only have monthly options. But I can't remember if I didn't like their liquidity. Oh, you know what? These must have just came out because I know. I thought I was looking for something mid 2026. January is actually close enough. I wouldn't hold these past early 2026 anyway. So January 2027, I'd be done with them. But yeah, I think this was the problem. I would love to take a position here because it just seems like it's not much. But with the dollar bid ask spread, that's like almost 30% of the options price and low volume. I can't bring myself to pull the trigger. So as interesting as some cheap Semler might be right now, at least the options environment is kind of a drag. I got a new camera, but I'm not sure I can even tell the difference. It's a little bit annoying because I liked the way that the webcam was perched right on top of the monitor, and it was like kind of like the perfect distance and zoomed inness. And now I've got the camera like way over to the side. I might have to get like a desk clamp or something and make it work better. But I think the virtual background shading is a little better, but, I need to do something with the lighting too. Probably would help with the quality. Was there no intro music? I thought I was sharing intro music. Did y'all actually not hear any music? I was playing, I was playing "Smoke 2 Joints" by Sublime. So were y'all just staring at me fucking looking around and not saying nothing? That's hilarious. I know I put include desktop. That's funny. All right. I'm still like 7 grand ahead on against the covered call ETFs at these prices. It's going to be interesting to see if the next time that they pump, because I checked and IMST and MSTY were both carrying some long positions. So if they can capture a bunch of upside and return that as a dividend, I think IMST had like 25% of their synthetic shares uncovered. And I don't know if I just caught them in the middle of a roll or something, like the middle of the day but looked like they were pretty long. And then MSTY was carrying like some debit spreads or something. Okay, so this one will be fun today actually, because I've got some money that I transfer basically to my personal checking account that I use as my allowance, but I very rarely spend any money. These t-shirts aren't very expensive. So I transferred in like 6 grand. So I can take some more positions here. The poor man's covered call that I have running costs 9,000 minus the 1,000 that I sold. So that would cost me 7,900. Oh, but I've got 8 shares. 8 shares is 2,400. Is this a margin account? So let's get freaky with it. Let's see. This is December. So there's only 189 days left on this. I probably need to roll this. I need to roll. Wait, it's really only 189 days left. Oh, I'm sorry. That's 6 months. This is fine. So I could pick up another one of these for 9 grand, sell the 440 for 1,000. That would cost me roughly 8 grand. So if I sell the 8 shares, that should get me there. All right, let's try it. December. The December 350s are cutting it kind of close. This is really, really risky. Delta's only 0.65 here. Bare minimum on a performance covered call is generally 70. But I did say this is my um, my spending money. So I'm going to buy and this may not go through because I don't know if this is a margin account. And then I'm going to add, just to get me in the ballpark, I'm going to add the cost to the strike. That gets me to the 440 strike. And let's see if yeah, they want me to deposit funds. All right, so let's sell my 8 shares. I might only have to sell 6 of them. Or 7. 6. Let's try 6. Okay, fuck, that was loud. My bad. Or maybe it's just not giving me credit for the pending cash. I thought they said it was immediately tradable. I might have to wait for the funds to settle, unfortunately. Let's see. Oh no, there we go. Cool. Yeah, so I've got negative 3,800, but when the 6,000 clears, that'll leave me with 2,100. And I have approximately 2 grand tied up in my put credit spreads on Tesla. So this looks pretty decent. Fortunately, I still have negative net theta, so this isn't quite capturing any time value. I'm actually losing money in this account when strategy doesn't go up. But I'll be dumping these in 8 days, so that'll help. But I'll probably just be plowing them into more December 1080s, so it won't really help after all. All right, the challenge account against the covered call ETFs. Carrying a net positive theta, so that's good. No cash to speak of. Just put these on yesterday, so nothing really to do but sit here and watch this for the next couple of weeks. If we do get a rally to 550, then of course these will get destroyed. I'll capture all of the upside up to 440, but then I'll be counting on these 5 positions to cover me. I don't think this is going to be enough. I think at least 10 to 20% delta of the total is probably what's needed. So I've got 600 shares, so I probably would need 60 to 120 delta, I'm guessing, to cover a rally to 550 or 600. And this is only 34 delta. So probably at minimum half, and potentially even only 25% of the amount of protection I need. Not anything I can really do about it without using margin. And I'm basically saying that that's against the rules in this account, because I don't think the ETFs can really trade on margin. That would probably be too risky. All right, so the 5K account, I've got precious little buying power, $170 worth of buying power. This GME put that I sold is a huge loser. So I'm going to end up having to buy these shares for $29.50, and the price is only like $22. It's going to be fine though. The premiums on this are actually still kind of holding up pretty well, like 3% return on capital for a week at the money. So not bad. This 10.5 Riot put will also assign. So I'm going to be forced to buy these for about $1 over current value I sold them for 20 cents, so that'll reduce my cost basis to 10.30. So Monday, I will sell covered calls against Riot. I'll sell covered calls against GME, chip away at that cost basis again. These three 718, I trade these offline with my brother-in-law, so we'll skip those. I'm only going to be holding these Septembers for another week or two. I'll dump these when they're 90 days in, and then start maybe rolling out to December if I've got any cash. I forgot I had bought this one GME YOLO call. That's down about 50% too. Let me see. Is this 425 call ready to roll? How long have I had it on? I sold it just a week ago for 12. No, it's still worth 9. Not ready. It's not ripe yet. All right, yeah, so that's it. So these two are expiring. Some people just really love selling cash secured puts, and they'll roll the 10.5 to the 9.5. It really doesn't matter. I'm just going to let them assign and then turn around and start selling covered calls, basically running the textbook wheel strategy. But rolling this to next week at the 950 and collecting another $39 would amount to the same thing, because I'm just going to on Monday, and it'll be a little bit less because there's some theta that will erode over the weekend, but I'll just be selling the 10 for $20. So it works out to about the same thing. Doesn't really matter. All right, well, that was a whole lot of almost nothing. So let's check chats and then call it a day. Damn, so did not hear music. That that is unfortunate. So I wonder if it has to do with my my AirPods are connected, so I could hear the music, and I have the settings set to share with music. Well, anyway, who knows? We'll troubleshoot it. My DJ skills not on point. Let's see. I think the algos will pick. What's up, Steven? Will pick up the massive increase in earnings from mark to market, and that could kick off algorithmic buying after earnings. I hope so. From your mouth to the market's ears. Deeply. They want those market buys and hit those wide bid asks. But generally, I find if you nudge slightly in market maker's favor, you'll get filled more often than not. Yeah, you must be talking about those similar bid ask spreads that I was looking at. Yeah, if you start in the middle and work your way down, you get a fill. But it's just kind of annoying. All right. So we had our first True North Now episode, and we interviewed Rob Hamilton of Anchor Watch, and we got the Bitcoin Core side of the issue. Trying to get Luke on so that he can talk about knots, and there's been a couple other good suggestions as well. Mechanic, Samson Mao, and Matthew Cratter. I haven't approached any of those guys. I'm sorry, I haven't approached Samson or Matthew yet. But I have reached out to Luke and Mechanic, and hopefully they'll have time once they get back from Prague. So I'm super stoked for that. I, personally, I'm still a little biased because I've kind of, I'm like 90% sure I'm already going to run knots on my node when I get it. And there were definitely some people that were eager in the replies to hear it from Luke's point of view, and I agree 100%. Yeah, so we need to get both sides in there, make sure that everybody gets some airtime. If you haven't checked that out, maybe take a look at it. Yeah, hopefully those MSTR True North now or True North Now segments will be fun, and we'll be able to do some things that aren't strictly like strategy related or aren't strictly Bitcoin Treasury Company related. And we can do them anytime, anything that anybody's interested in. And hopefully there'll be some fun stuff that we'll be able to do between Wednesdays. So yeah, I mean, I guess if you're interested in some type of topic, let your voice be heard, and there's some cool stuff that we can cover and somebody's interested in it, maybe we'll have a special episode outside of the Wednesday streams and cover that kind of stuff. So appreciate everybody tuning in. Be good, y'all.